It was supposed to be the day everything changed for Daniel Myers, a single father of a 7-year-old boy, Jacob, and a man who hadn't caught a break in years. The city buzzed around him as he stood in front of the towering glass building where his job interview was scheduled. Dressed in his only suit, a slightly wrinkled navy number that hung loosely on his shoulders, he clutched his worn leather folder with trembling hands. He took a deep breath, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "Please let this be the one." Daniel had lost his wife to cancer 3 years ago. Since then, he had been doing everything he could, working double shifts at a warehouse, cleaning offices at night, and still barely making enough to feed his son. But this interview at Weston Financial Group was his golden ticket. A stable job. Health insurance. A future. Just as he stepped toward the revolving door, a sharp, heart-wrenching sob pierced through the city noise. He paused. It wasn't the usual chatter or chaos of downtown, it was the sound of a child. Raw. Alone. Lost. He turned his head and saw her. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, was sitting on the cold concrete bench just across the plaza. Her dress was white but stained, her hair tangled like she hadn't been brushed in days. She clutched a small stuffed bunny to her chest, rocking back and forth, crying like the world had forgotten her. Daniel's heart twisted. Every second he stood there was a second closer to missing the interview. But the father in him wouldn't let him move forward. He glanced at his watch. 8:54 a.m. His interview was at 9 o'clock. Maybe if he just made sure she was okay and called someone, he could still make it. He walked over gently, crouching so as not to scare her. "Hey, sweetie, are you okay? Are you lost?" She looked up with tear-soaked cheeks and eyes full of fear. I can't find my nanny, she was supposed to wait for me outside the bakery, but she's gone. I was just getting my muffin." Daniel felt the weight of the moment hit him. She was too young to be alone in this part of the city. Anything could have happened. "Do you know your name?" She nodded. "Emily. Emily Carrington." Carrington. The name tickled something in the back of his mind. "Okay, Emily," he said softly. "Let's call your parents, all right?" She sniffled. "I don't have a phone. Anne. I think Mommy's in another country. But Nanny June always takes care of me. She always does." Daniel pulled out his old flip phone. No signal. Of course. He looked at the sky. The clouds thickened, and the air grew heavy. He glanced back toward the building. The receptionist was moving papers. The interview would start any second. He sighed. And then he sat down next to her. Emily looked at him curiously. "Aren't you busy?" Daniel smiled a bit. "Not anymore." He called 911 from a nearby store and told them about the missing nanny. They told him an officer would come shortly. While they waited, he bought Emily a hot chocolate and sat with her under the cafe's awning as light rain began to fall. "Do you have a daughter?" she asked. "I have a son. His name is Jacob." "Is he nice?" Daniel laughed. "He's the best. Loves dinosaurs and hates broccoli." Emily giggled. That small laugh, pure and unfiltered, made Daniel feel like, maybe, this was exactly where he was supposed to be. The officer arrived 20 minutes later, and just as Daniel was explaining the situation, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the cafe. A woman in her late 40s rushed out, drenched, panicked, and crying. "Emily. Oh my God, Emily. Nanny June." Emily jumped into her arms. Daniel stepped back, relieved. The woman looked up at him with a mix of confusion and gratitude. "Who are you?" He explained everything. How he missed an important interview to help Emily. The woman looked stunned. "You stayed? Even though?" Daniel nodded. "She reminded me of my own child. I couldn't just leave her." Nanny June blinked, tears forming. You don't know who she is, do you? I only know her name. Emily Carrington. She gave a soft chuckle, then pulled out her phone. Within minutes, another car arrived, this one even more luxurious. Out stepped a woman dressed in a crisp cream pantsuit, the kind you only see on the covers of business magazines. Her face was elegant, but her eyes were wild with worry. Emily, she cried, running toward her. Mama, the little girl yelled, hugging her tight. Daniel stood frozen. The woman turned to him. Are you the man who stayed with my daughter? He nodded, awkwardly rubbing the back of his neck. I'm Charlotte Carrington, she said. CEO of Carrington Holdings. Daniel's stomach dropped. She studied him for a moment. You're the reason she's safe. You gave up your own priorities, for a child you didn't even know. I just did what any parent would do. Charlotte looked at him with something deeper than gratitude. Most people wouldn't. Especially not when the world gives them so little. Then she said something that changed everything. Get in the car. Daniel found himself sitting in the back of a Rolls-Royce, soaked to the bone, while Charlotte Carrington asked him about his life. He told her everything: how he lost his wife, how he worked nights just to keep up with the bills, how today's interview was his one shot. I guess that's gone now, he said, trying to smile. She didn't smile back. Maybe not, she said. 2 days later, Daniel was invited to the Carrington estate. It wasn't just a mansion, it was a palace. White stone pillars. Gardens that stretched like museums. Rooms so big, you could get lost just looking around. Charlotte welcomed him personally and introduced him to her private team. Not just to thank him, but to offer him a job. Head of Community Outreach for the Carrington Foundation. I've seen men with Harvard degrees who wouldn't have done what you did, she told him. You put compassion above ambition. That's the kind of leadership I want my daughter to see. That's the kind of leadership I want in my foundation. Daniel was speechless. But I don't have a degree. I'm just a single dad who cleans offices. You're a single dad who didn't hesitate to help a crying girl. That says more about you than any diploma ever could. He broke down then. Right there, in front of her. The years of pain. The hopelessness. The fear that he'd never be good enough. And Charlotte just handed him a tissue, smiling gently. Let's build something better, together. A year later, Daniel stood on a stage at a charity gala hosted by the Carrington Foundation. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his son Jacob sitting in the front row beside Emily. He told the story. Of the missed interview. Of the crying child. Of the decision that changed his life. The crowd was silent. And then, thunderous applause. As he stepped down, Charlotte hugged him and whispered, "You saved my daughter. But maybe she saved you too." He smiled. She did. Today, Daniel heads programs that help struggling single parents find jobs, childcare, and hope. The foundation funds housing for those in need. And Jacob? He's thriving. Happy. Full of laughter. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to rewrite a life. And sometimes, missing your biggest opportunity leads you to your greatest destiny.